Да, отлично. Я
So,
счастлив быть здесь с
happy to
тобой
be
и
here with
немного
you,
поговорить о научной
speaking a
фантастике
little
и
bit about
будущем.
science fiction and future. I
Меня
am
зовут
Xavier
Facelina.
Facelina.
Я
I'm the
являюсь
CEO of
генеральным
a
директором
company
компании
called
под
TechLab,
названием TechLab
and
и
I work
занимаюсь
in
обеспечением безопасности
securing
критически важных систем,
critical
в том
systems
числе
and
ядерных объектов.
including nuclear facilities. Keep that in
Запомни это на
mind for a
несколько
few
секунд.
seconds.
Николас мой соавтор, но
Nicolas
сегодня он не является
is
моим
my
соведущим.
co-author and is not my co-presenter today. Co-word.
Я не
Couldn't
смог
make it
приехать
to
в
the
США,
US.
это
It's
очень
very
печально,
sad, but
но я буду
I will present
выступать за нас двоих.
for the two of us.
Так
So
вот,
Nicolas
Nicolas
is a futurist.
До
I
встречи
didn't
с
know what
Николасом я не
was a
знал, что
futurist
такое
before meeting
футурист.
Nicolas,
Но
but
это
it
действительно
is a
футурист.
futurist. He
Он
is
работает
researcher
исследователем
at
в
the
университете
Audencia
Одонсии
University
Перевод.
in France.
Франц,
He's
генеральный
CEO of his
директор
own
своей
company,
собственной компании,
Making
создающей
Tomorrow,
завтрашний
and
день,
he
и
lead
он
the
возглавляет
Red
красную
Team
команду
Defense
защиты
of
Министерства
the
обороны
French
Франции.
Department of
Так
Defense.
что же
So,
такое красная
what is the
команда?
Red Team?
Это
It's
не
not
та же
the
самая
same Red Team
красная
as here.
команда,
It's not
опять же.
about
И речь идет не о
cybersecurity.
кибербезопасности.
It's a team
Это команда
of
военных авторов,
military,
авторов научной
of
фантастики,
authors,
сценаристов и
science fiction authors,
кинематографистов,
of
размышляющих
scenarists,
о
of
будущем
movie
войны и
makers,
будущем конфликта.
reflecting about the future of the war and the future of the conflict.
Так
So
вот,
that's
это
the
и есть
Red Team of
красная
the
команда
Department
Министерства
of Defense.
обороны.
I
Вчера
was
я
speaking
думал об
about
этом с одним
that with
человеком, и
someone
он
yesterday. He
сказал,
said
что это
it's the
самая
Frenchiest
французская
thing
вещь, которую я слышал
I
в
heard in DEF CON.
Так
So
что
yes,
да,
it's very
это
French
очень
to have a red
по-французски
team
иметь
at the
красную
DoD,
команду в
but
Министерстве обороны,
Nicolas leads
но
this
Николя
team.
возглавляет это. Я
I
познакомлю
will
вас с
introduce
участниками
us by
конференции
and
и
introduce the
расскажу о том,
conference
как мы
by saying a little word
познакомились и
about
как у нас
okay,
появилась
how
идея
we met
провести
and how we
конференцию.
have this idea to make this conference.
Так
So
вот, мы
we
оба выступали
were
на
both of
конференции
us
с
a
докладом.
speaker at the conference.
Он
He was
представлял
presenting
что-то о
something on
будущем
the
и
future and
инновациях,
innovation,
а я выступал
and I
с
was giving a
вдохновляющей
talk,
речью
an
о своем
inspirational
собственном
talk on my
пути и
own
личном
path and
путешествии.
personal journey.
И в
And
этом
in this talk,
выступлении я
I
говорил о
was saying
том,
that
что когда я был ребенком,
when I was a
то
kid,
смотрел
I
фильм
saw this
«Военные
movie,
игры».
War Games. I
Мне
was
было
7
7
years
лет,
old,
и я решил стать
and I
хакером и
decided to
жениться
be
на
a
Дженнифер.
hacker and to marry Jennifer.
Я не
Don't
хочу,
one
чтобы
failed
кто-то
one.
потерпел неудачу. Возможно,
Perhaps
кто-то из вас
some
тоже
of you
потерпел
failed
неудачу.
one too.
Но я
But
говорю об этом и говорю,
I speak
хорошо,
about that and say,
военные
okay,
игры были для
War
меня
Games
очень
was a very
трогательным
moving
фильмом,
movie
и
to
так
me,
далее,
etc.,
и так
etc.
далее. И
I continue
продолжаю
my
свой
story.
рассказ.
And
И после
after
моего
my talk,
выступления Николас
Nicolas
подошел
come
ко
to
мне
me
и
and
сказал:
say,
«Эй,
hey,
Xavier,
Xavier,
ты один из живых
you
примеров
are
того, что
one of the
научная
living
фантастика
example
приближит реальность».
of the fact that science fiction drives reality.
И я
And I was
подумал,
like,
что
what?
что
What
ты
did you say,
такое
sir?
сказал? Ты не
You
думал,
didn't
что
figure that
финансируешь и
you
управляешь
funded and run a
компанией по защите
company
ядерных
to
объектов от
protect
хакерских
nuclear
атак.
facilities from
Потому что
hacking
видел фильм,
because you
когда нам
saw
было
a movie
по
when we were
и что
7
эта
years old
угроза была всего
and that
лишь
the
чистой
threat
воды
was
выдумка.
just pure fiction.
И я
And I was,
подумал,
no, I
нет,
didn't
я об
figure
этом не
that.
подумал. Это был уже
It was the
первый раз,
first time
когда я
I think about
задумался об
that.
этом.
So
Так что я
I
сказал,
said, okay,
хорошо, это
it's
очень
very
интересно.
interesting. And a
И
few
несколько
years
лет
later,
спустя мы решили
we
начать
decided
исследовательскую
to
программу по
start
хакерству
a
в
research
научной
program
фантастике.
on science,
И
hacking
вот
in
несколько
science fiction.
месяцев
And a
спустя,
few months
примерно
later,
8
like 8 months
месяцев
later,
спустя,
I'm
я
here
здесь
in
перед
front of you.
тобой.
Thank
Большое
you very
тебе
much for
спасибо
being
за
here
то,
with
что ты
me.
здесь со мной.
So,
Так что это будет настоящее
it will
путешествие.
be a journey. I
не
will
буду
not be
делать
conclusive.
окончательный вывод. Речь идет
It's
скорее о том,
more
чтобы
about
познакомить вас с
introduce you
использованием
to
научной
the
фантастики
usage
в
of
инновациях
science
и
fiction
реальности,
in
а также о
innovation
том,
and
как мы
reality.
можем заботиться о научной
How
фантастике.
we can care about science fiction. I
Я
think
думаю, что,
that
вероятно,
probably most
большинство
of
из
us
нас немного
are a
помешаны
little
на
geeky
научной
and like
фантастике и
science
любят.
fictions.
Но я думаю,
But
что в этом выступлении я,
I think that in
вероятно,
this talk,
предложу вам
I
рассмотреть
probably
ее как
would
что-то очень точное
will
с
invite you
профессиональной точки
to
зрения.
consider it like something that is professionally very accurate.
Так
So,
что давай начнем
let's start the journey by some thing about the science fiction and the imaginaries.
Итак, во-первых, просто чтобы прояснить
First,
ситуацию, это
just to clear the air, this is a scientific domain, so you can read a lot of papers or books, like the excellent books of David Kirby, on the impact of science fiction on the real world, and how the science fiction is pushing the world in a, let's say, not known future, but in a casted future. So, and there is a feedback loop between science fiction that drove the innovation and the innovation that inspires science fiction. So, and this feedback loop is well documented too, in some scientific readings. One of the usage of science fiction is, of course, to raise the awareness of public or politics. There is two main ways of doing that. One is by utopia, by presenting something that we want to get, and the other one by dystopian, so by showing something that we don't want to have. Statistically, we have more dystopia than utopia in the science fiction. Who here never saw this video on YouTube? Okay, so I will not show the video because it's a 7-minute long video, but I do encourage you to note the term and to look at this video right after the talk. It's 7 minutes, and I swear it's a good idea. So just wait a second for the pictures. 3, 2, 1, new slide. So, now I will spoil you the video. So, it's about a presentation about a company making a weapon and drones. So the guy is on stage. It's very happy to present the successful product, the drone, and is presenting the new generation, like micro drones. Micro drones capable of escaping the bullets of snipers, having a camera, tactical sensor, face recognition, like any phone or apps. So it's very important when you do some fiction to relate to what exists, because we can figure that yes, it's possible. And of course, some explosive. And then he showed a demo of a surgical strike of the micro drone killing something. And then he go on, example of another surgical strike. Everybody is happy, except then, of course, there is the beginning of some accident, of some terrorism with these drones. Even in university classroom, targeting specific people that have reposted a video on social media, denouncing some government, etc., etc. So, at the end, we see that it could be very bad to have this kind of technology. And at the very end of the video, you see that this is for real. It's in the video, but he's a real professor that explains, okay, guys, we made this movie to raise your awareness about the danger of such technology. So that's one usage of science fiction in reality, is to shape innovation, yes, but to shape politics, regulations. I think it's very important. So that said, let's talk about hacking. So we started to look at the core subject. Like I said, when I met Nicolas, we decided to work on science fiction and hacking in science fiction. So we said, okay, what is, to clear the air again, what is the representation of hacking? So we started to crawl images, like a lot of images from Pinterest, ArtStation, Shutterstock, etc. And we use a tool named Pixplot by DH Labs of the Yale University to map the images and to see some cloud, etc., etc. So what you see behind is the cloud of the representation of the word hacking. It's very, it was a huge disappointment. It's hacking furniture, like Swedish furniture. So when you look at all the pictures of hacking, it's not related with hackers. So we look for another word. Oh, sorry, no. another thing that you faint with, because you see there was two clouds. One is hacking IKEA furnitures. The other is hacking your phone, like the 10 features that you don't know, the super shortcuts that you must know, etc., etc. So on the internet, the representation, visual representation of hacking is now not related to hackers. So we look for hacker. And this is very, there are strong archetypes of hackers. Of course, the mask of V for Vendetta and Anonymous. Of course, the hoodie. It's a must-have. And sometimes both, the mask and the hoodie. Another representation of hacker when it's drawing, and you can see that there is a sort of pattern sometimes. So again, strong archetypes. And when we speak about archetypes, we say that every family of image that we found was quite the same. I mean, it's like 4 images, declination of images. So we have terminals, we have metrics, and we have some hardware hacking for electronicians. So yes, we have some. If we look for cybersecurity, we can see padlocks. So for the lock pickers in the room, you are well represented. Cybersecurity is clearly a padlock for the rest of the world. And you can see some devices, mostly Apple ones and iPhone. And you can see people, some with hoodies, and some other with shirts and suits. That's cybersecurity. So it's, again, really, really caricatural. So the representation of hackers, etc., is a caricature. And this is an important point in the fact that it's difficult to raise the awareness of the public with a caricature. So, as experts, we know, for example, that some threats exist, that some risks are important, and we sometimes fail to communicate that to people. Why? Because the representation that they have is caricatural. So we are not legitimate, credible, because they picture us with hoodies and with padlocks. So that's one of the bias. Some people tried to change that. So the IDEO firm with HP ran a contest to say, okay, please submit some representation to raise the awareness of the public on cybersecurity, but without being caricatural. So I'm just showing you some examples. One is, okay, my other computer is your hot monitor, the t-shirt with all your information on you, a picture about what is encryption for the music, and I like the one on the right to say, okay, which one is the hacker? Oh, all of them, and hackers came in any shapes, age, etc. And so it's, I mean, it's a try to be less caricatural and to give some space and some imagination to the public to drive them into, okay, that's the real world of hacking. It's not hoodies and padlocks. Okay. And to be clear, I have hoodies. Okay, so and that's an interesting point, because when I don't know, when it's 3 a.m. and I can't figure these particular bugs, or I fail to scan something or anything, I have my hoodie and, you know, I make this move, take a coffee, etc. And I am into the character. So yes, it's caricatural, but it defines me too. So I have a hoodie and I feel like, okay, I am in the hacker community because I dress like that. So it's a feedback interaction again. Let's explore, because when we saw this caricatural representation, we say, okay, now we have to explore the real science fiction. Okay, it was just internet representation, present public representation, nothing about science fiction. So we started the real work. And by real work, I mean that Nicolas and his team had to watch and read a lot of films.
Так
So
что я не осуждаю, но это
I'm
не
not
работает.
judging, but it's not working.
Я
I
бегаю
mean,
тут.
no, I'm joking. Of course, it's a huge work. So they characterized almost 200 entries. Reading movies, comics, etc., etc. It's just an example of the database, and this database was distributed like that. We can obviously see that we have a lot of movies speaking about hacking and hackers, some TV shows, and after manga, we have found one video game about hacking. And all of that were studied by Nicolas and his team. And then, okay, excuse me. So they looked a lot of movies and series, and they characterized the thing to see, okay, what is the target? What is the type of attack that have been done? And okay, so I will. I think that I will just try the PDF file after that.
Вот и все. Хорошо.
So what's important is to see that these movies, etc., we have made a study to characterize all the attacks in the movie. So what is the characterization? It's what type of targets, like military, civil society, private sector, etc., and what type of attacks. Was it just spying? Tapping? Was it destroying? Was it modifying things? Okay. Excuse me, I try in the same time to have this. I will need some technical help here to have the PDF on the screen because the PowerPoint file is crushing PowerPoint.
Спасибо тебе. Так
So,
что, когда мой спаситель
when my
попытается
savior
вывести PDF-файл
will
на
try
экран,
to
я
have
могу
the
поделиться с
PDF
тобой
file on the
некоторыми
screen,
идеями.
I can share you some of the insights.
Во-первых, в мире художественной литературы
First of all,
очень часто
in
происходит
the
нападение.
fiction world, the attacks are very
Они очень
very
хорошо
well
распределены по разрушительным
spread
массивам, таким как
across
один, скажем, 25%
destroy and erase,
атак — это
like
уничтожение
one,
объектов научной
let's say
фантастики.
25% of the attacks is destroying things in the science fiction.
Почти
Almost
25%
25%
это
it's
шпионаж
spying
за
things.
объектами. А затем у
And
вас
then
есть еще
you
немного
have
саботажа,
a little more
цепи,
of
и
sabotage,
большинство из них связано с изменением вещей,
slowdown,
например, с влиять на людей, изменять
and the
данные и
majority
так далее.
is about modifying things, like to influence people to change data, etc.
Так
So
что
in
в
the
научной
science fiction,
фантастике все короли
all the
относятся к
hackings
четвертой
are,
категории.
well spread into this fourth category.
И главной
and
мишенью является
the government is the
правительство, а
main
затем
target,
военное и гражданское общество.
and then military and civil society.
Когда
When
мы
we,
это сделаем, я не
I don't know
знаю,
if we
добьешься ли
succeed.
ты успеха, но
I'm
я
with
с
you,
тобой. Когда
when
мы
we
отправились
went
в
to,
реальность и изучили реальные атаки,
to
мы изучили
reality
почти
and
одну
to study
атаку из трех
the real attacks, we studied almost 1,000 attacks with 3 sources. One is the US Council Foreign Relations database, which is very rich with a lot of attacks. Another one was the cybercrime history data line by Robert Xavier. And then we've made some interviews to characterize some of the attacks, etc. So of course, keep in mind that we do have a bias on the reality because it's declarative. So, on the fiction, we have access to all the data, but on the reality, it's declarative. So, the data set is not representative of all the real-world attacks, only the attacks that have been reported. So, almost 1,000 for the reality. And then, when we compare on the same aspect that science fiction attacks, we can see that it's not at all equal. It's like, 80% of spying government and spying financial data. It's a very few destruction, very few influence. Okay, so it exists, of course, but when you look in the proportions, you have a lot of spying. And the targets, like I said, are more government, private sectors, and then military. So, what raised my curiosity about that is that we were thinking that, okay, science fiction is super aggressive with the world. When you see a movie or you look in science fiction, it's like destroying things, killing people by hacking, etc., etc. And you don't have that yet in the database of the past attacks. But when you look closer at the numbers, you see, okay, what are the attacks that destroy something in the real world? That are used for terrorism, etc. You find some of these attacks, and you can find a sweet spot in 2008, let's say 2008, 2010, when attacks become real-world attacks. So, of course, we can have in mind Stuxnet or some pipelines blowing, etc. So we have a curve of real-world attacks that is coming for 10 years now, and that we start to capture in the databases of real-world attacks. So I think that we are exposing ourselves to what science fiction showed to us for years. And we are doing that because we are digitalizing things, sorry. But anyway, the point is, what can we do now to prevent that? And is there some solutions in science fiction? So I will stop just a second to see if we can get some sort of presentation back. Sorry about that. Okay, so, like I said, 2008, the first reported real-world accidents due to hacking, so pipeline blowing. And in 2010, Stuxnet. So let's have a quick stop on two examples of physical threats or attack. Hacking a nuclear plant or hacking a pacemaker. So two examples of real-world potential attack or threats. So, if we are speaking of nuclear plants, interestingly enough, the first appearance of hacking a nuclear plant in science fiction is quite old. It's like 1984, a movie called Hide and Seek, where a college kid hack into a nuclear plant, etc., etc. Actually, I think it's not surprising he succeeds, because if you are careful enough, the guys in the nuclear plant cannot spell conference correctly. It's conference. So, but anyway, he managed to hack into it. And we had to wait 2010 to have the first nuclear plant hacking with Stuxnet. So, in that case, science fiction was very early before the real-world attack and before the real-world exposure. The pacemaker case is a little different, because the first appearance is in reality. in 2008 a scientific paper showing some potential vulnerabilities in pacemakers. And in 2012, at the end of the year 2012, there was an Homeland TV show's episode showing the murder of the vice president with the hacking of his pacemaker. So what he's doing now is to gather the ID number of the pacemaker. And look at 2013, the actual vice president dictionary removed the wireless features of his pacemaker. And he said publicly that, yes, he saw the TV show, and yes, it found it credible, and it's an accurate representation of what was possible. So he did not read the scientific paper in 2008, but he saw the episode and decided to remove the wireless functionality. In 2017, there was a recall of 500,000 pacemakers to fix, to patch some vulnerability that made the pacemaker hackable. And in 2018, there was a presentation, I mean at Black Hat, but at DEF CON 2, of Jonathan Butts and Bill Kim about a threat in the pacemakers. So in that case, the science fiction was lagging behind the reality, but I think that we can say that the reality reacts to the science fiction more than the scientific publication.
For
the last part, try to go on a more positive vibe and to see how we can use the science fiction and study the science fiction to innovate. So for the moment it was a very glimpse on a very quantitative approach, and now we will be more of a qualitative approach with an example of an innovation track. So nothing really fancy, but let's try. So as we gathered a lot of pictures and look a lot of movies, etc., we found that the representation of the cartographic map was something that was coming very often in the science fiction and very often in the real world. So we can see on any vendor site some cartographic representation of the threats and attacks, etc. I don't know if they know that, but actually it's from a science fiction movie, a very great movie in 1970 called Colossus, the Forbidden Project, with robots, AI, etc. Very great movie, where you can see the threats moving on the map. And so we ask ourselves, is it the best representation of cyber threats, this geographical map? Not sure of that. So we dig a little bit about, on geographical representation, and we found the work of the Professor Brockmans about health and about a way of representing pandemics. So he made this simulation with a standard representation of a virus spreading on the Earth. So you can look. Okay, it's blinking, it's red. You clearly see that it's a problem, it's a pandemic, but we cannot get a lot of information of it. And so this Professor Dick Buckman said, okay, let's make the exact same simulation of a pandemic, but instead of having a cartographic map, let's have a map of the duration of the flights between airports. So at the middle we have the start of the pandemic, and then you have all the cities by time of flight, airport to airport. And of course he found out that it is useful because you can clearly predict where the pandemic will hit and at which stage.
Итак, мы
So
получили первую информацию о картографии
we get
и
this
продолжили эту
this
работу, а
first
также
thing
нашли
about
другую работу, научную
cartography,
работу по картографии.
and we continue the work, and we found other work, scientific work about cartography.
В этой
This one is
статье
about
речь идет о рисках
banks
банков,
risk,
о том, как сопоставить
how
риск
to
нападения на банк со стороны ДЭП или
map
агентств.
the risk on the attack from a DAB or from an agency on a bank.
И эти
And
ребята
those
придумали
guys
нечто
made
довольно
something
забавное.
pretty funny to look at.
Они сделали
They
эту
make
первую
this first
картографию,
cartography,
а
and
затем
then
решили
they
представить
decided
географическую
to
систему с помощью
represent
конструктора Lego.
geographically with Lego the whole system.
Итак,
So
ДЭП, банк,
the DAB,
банковские
the bank,
серверы и
the
так
bank
далее.
servers, etc.
И,
And
наконец,
at
они
last,
установили
they put a
маленькую
little
камеру
camera
на нападающего, чтобы
on
увидеть его
the
точку
attacker to see the point of view of the attacker.
и сказать,
And
окей,
to say,
мы
okay,
можем
we
увидеть,
can
до
see
чего он
what
может легко
he can
дотянуться,
reach
что
easily,
скрыто за чем-то и
what is
Д.
hidden behind something, etc., etc.
Вот
So,
мы и решили сделать
we
миксирование
decided
в качестве
to mix
эксперимента.
as an experiment.
Это не
It's
настоящая
not a
инновация,
real innovation.
это
It's
просто
just
эксперимент.
an experiment. We
Мы решили
decided
смешать
to
эти два
mix
представления и сказать,
the two
хорошо, а
representation.
что если мы представим
And to say, okay,
атаку
what
состоянием
if
по соединению,
we
а не
picture
карту
a
сети с
cyber attack
расстоянием по подключению, как на
with
этой картинке,
a
и мы
distance
рассматриваем точку зрения
by
злоумышленника,
connection
точку
and not
зрения
a map
вредоносного
of the
ПО,
network,
например, сети.
with a distance by connection, and we, like in this picture, and we take the point of view of the attacker, of the point of view of the malware, for example, on a network.
А потом
And
мы
then
говорим, хорошо,
we say, okay,
возможно, это
perhaps
может
it can
выглядеть
look
примерно
like
так.
something like that.
Если
If
ты
you put some
поставишь
VR
много виртуальной
and say, okay,
реальности и скажешь,
I will put my
хорошо,
VR
я
lens,
надену свой
and then I will
а затем
go
сразу
straight
же в сеть,
into the
в том
network
месте,
and
где обнаружена
at
вредоносная программа.
the
Скажу,
place
хорошо,
where the
отсюда я
malware
могу
is detected,
видеть
and I
эту
can say,
систему,
okay,
я могу
from
видеть
here I can see this system, I can see this one.
Эта
This
система
one is
достаточно защищена,
protected
но я
enough,
думаю,
but
что смогу
I
добраться
think that
до
I can
сети
reach
вот за
the
1-2
OT
прыжка и
network
так
in
далее.
one jump or two extra.
Так что,
So,
конечно, если мы уточним
of
это,
course,
то
if we
сможем собрать
elaborate that, we
нужную
can
информацию и, возможно,
draft
поработать с командой SAC,
some
чтобы иметь
information and can
возможность
say, perhaps we
реагировать.
can work with the
Это
team in
происходит
the
с
SOC
типичным SAC.
to be able to react more efficiently. That's with a typical SOC.
Когда
I
ты
mean,
смотришь на
when
изображение
you look at the
компьютера,
picture of a
то
SOC,
видишь стену
wall of
экрана,
screen,
все смотрят на
everybody is
экран,
looking
но
at the
никто не
screen, nobody is
разговаривает.
talking to each other.
Это очень-очень
Very
странно.
strange.
Так что,
So
опять же, мы
again,
используем научную
we
фантастику, чтобы
use
сказать,
the
хорошо,
science
в фильмах
fiction to
что
say,
такое
okay,
маски.
in the movies, what are the SOCs? So
Итак,
the
первое,
first
что мы
thing that
выяснили,
we
это
found
то,
out
что
is that
люди
the people are
разговаривают
talking
друг
to
с
each
другом.
other.
Поэтому
So
мы
we
разработали
designed
проект приложения,
some
в котором люди сидят за
draft
столами и
of
могут
an
видеть
SOC where people
необходимости
sit
у
around
них
tables,
может быть
they
большой
can
экран.
see each other, then can have a big screen if needed.
И,
And
конечно же, вы
of
можете
course, you can
увидеть
see the
парня
guy
слева и парня
on the
после
left
атаки, которого мы видели
with the
ранее.
guy inside the attack that we see previously. He's working with his teammates. He can send data to the workstation.
И когда
And
мы
when we are
здесь,
that,
все, что нам нужно сделать, это
when we are here,
в
what
реальности
we have to do is
спроецировать
to
что-то осязаемое, о чем некоторые
get back
люди
to
могут
reality
подумать. Хорошо,
and to
да,
project
это реально.
something that is tangible, that some people can think about, okay, yes, it's real.
Это можно
It can be
сделать.
done.
Так
So
что мы просто
we just
попытаемся представить
try
себе это и
to
скажем,
picture that
хорошо,
and
давайте
say,
уберем
okay,
эту слишком причудливую
let's
штуку,
remove
но мы
the
можем
too
поставить
fancy
какой-нибудь
thing, but
круглый экран посередине.
we can have some circular screen in the middle.
У
We
нас
can
могут
have
сидеть люди и
people
работать вместе.
seated and people working together.
Мы
We can
можем
have this
попросить
guy
этого парня с
with
этим
this VR lens
VR-объективом поработать над
to
программой
work
носка.
on the problem of the stock.
Так
So
что, повторяю,
that's
это день-продукт и не
is
инновация.
again, it's not product, it's not an innovation.
Это
It's
просто
just
картинка
a
того, что
picture
хорошо,
of, okay,
которую мы можем
we can
использовать
use,
и подвести
and
итог.
we can wrap
Скажем,
up like
используя
that.
научную
We can use
фантастику, чтобы увидеть
science fiction to say, to see macro tendencies.
Например,
For example, the macro tendency that we missed is that the world will be aggressive and the cyber attacks will convert to real world attacks. It was clearly present in the science fiction, and we did not see that coming in 2008 and 2010. So That's the macro vision.
Мы
We
можем
can
использовать
use the science
научную
fiction
фантастику для
on
более
a
конкретного
more
видения, когда говорим,
specific
например, об атомных
vision when you say,
станциях
for
или
example, for the
атомных
nuclear plants or for the
сказать,
pacemaker,
хорошо, если это
and to say, okay,
произойдет, что мы
if
можем
it's
сделать?
coming,
Мы
what we can
увидели, что
do,
можем использовать
we saw
это
that
для
we can
повышения
use it to raise
осведомленности
awareness.
общественности. Так что
So
вместо того, чтобы
instead of
просто
just
собирать
gathering
информацию
information for the
для
science fiction, we
фантастики,
can
мы можем
produce
создавать
content,
Мы
we can
можем
produce
создавать
movie, we
фильмы и
can
произведения
produce
искусства, чтобы повысить
art
осведомленность людей об
to
этой теме.
raise the awareness of people on the subject.
И, конечно же,
And
мы
of
можем
course,
внедрять
we
инновации,
can innovate
потому
because
что
we
можем
can
определить,
figure
какая угроза может
what kind of
возникнуть или какую
threat
защиту
will
мы
come
хотели бы
or
иметь.
what kind of defense we would like to have.
Итак,
So,
в заключение я бы сказал, что это начальный проект,
to conclude,
начальный
I would say
исследовательский
that
проект.
this is a starting project, a starting research project.
Так
So,
вот, всего 8
just
месяцев
8 months
назад я
ago,
поделился
was
с тобой
sharing
этой
the
информацией.
information with you.
Если
If
кому-то из вас интересно
any of
принять
you
участие или
are
узнать что-то
interested
о нас,
to
пожалуйста,
participate
просто
or to
напишите нам
know
или
something about,
следуйте за
please
нами, например, в Твиттере. И мы скоро
just
опубликуем
ping
информацию о
us
группе,
or
которая
follow us
будет
on
найдена,
Twitter, for
например,
example, and
открытая исследовательская
we will
группа,
publish
чтобы узнать, что мы
soon
можем узнать о научной
the
фантастике.
information
Что
about
мы можем
the
сделать
group
с
that we
помощью
will
научной фантастики
found,
и что
like
мы
an
можем
open
изменить
research
в
group
будущем, как мы можем
to
сформировать будущее
know,
киберзащиты с
to
помощью
dig
научной фантастики.
in this subject of what we can learn about science fiction, what we can do with science fiction, and what we can change in the future, how we can shape the future of cyber defense with science fiction. So if you want to watch movie and work with us on the project, please give us a word.
Так
So
что спасибо тебе.
thank you
Большое
very much
спасибо
for
за твое присутствие.
your presence.
Извини
Sorry
за
for
ошибку в
the
середине
bug in
презентации.
the middle of the presentation.
И я
And
думаю, что у нас
I
есть
think
несколько
we have
минут, чтобы ответить на несколько
some
вопросов,
minutes
если
for a
таковые
few
имеются.
questions, if there are.
Спасибо тебе.
Thank you
Большое
very
тебе
much.
спасибо.